Welcome to Retail OCD, where we explore how headlines, trends, and technologies are impacting consumers and the business of retail. I can't say that without laughing some days. I'm DeAnn Campbell. I'm supposed to be joined by two co-hosts, but right now you'll notice I only have Barney Stature. Josh Rockoff will be joining us shortly, and we haven't decided yet whether we're going to play a trick on him and turn off our cameras when he joins, but we'll think about it. Anyways, for years, the use of voice technology in retail has had a really bad rap. It's been underwhelming and never really quite connecting with shoppers. But today, I think that's finally changing. And to talk about that, we've got two really interesting guests. We have Nick Leonard, who's the visionary behind a company called VoiceRun AI. And we have Ed Crowley, who is really, not to brag, but I think he's the leading authority in the world on voice technology for in-store kiosks. And we're really excited to have both of you together here on the show because, Nick, you're really the platform powering enterprise voice AI at scale. And Ed, you're the practitioner who's deployed it where customers actually stand and speak in a store environment. So first off, I want to say welcome and thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We'll start by just asking, how did each of you first become interested in applying voice technology to your various industries? And what kind of pain points were you looking at that you were trying to solve? And Nick, we'll start with you.
Okay, I didn't know if we were going to start chronologically with Ed, but I can go first.
Start with Ed. We can do it alphabetically.
Yeah.
Let the old guy go first, sure.
Oh boy, don't get me started.
It's okay. This isn't in studio, so you can't punch me. We're like this.
Yeah, right.
Well, don't go all at once.
All right. Well, I'll start. How's that?
Okay, Barney, you start.
So
Barney, actually, we start with the B's. You have to go first, anyways.
I'll start. In 2018 was when I think I first met Ed, perhaps at a digital signage expo. Maybe it was after that, but I was there in the early days of conversational AI avatars for QSR, some kiosks, but it was way too early in any kind of real use case in the real world. A lot of reasons were just the processing wasn't great. And also the audio capture was an impossibility at the time. And I know both of you have spent a lot of time, and that was my biggest issue at the time. And I think it was the biggest for anyone in an airport or in a restaurant dealing with public space. And so you guys have gotten to an end where it's solved on some, so you can actually order from the kiosk properly with your voice.
That's true. I'll jump in, Nick, being the next guy in line, although I'm not sure who's older, Barney or Art. So,
well, is it age before beauty? Is that it now?
There it is. So you're spot on. I started in voice AI around the same time, 17, 18, and did some unique projects. I think everybody has driven through the drive-through, and I've used human conversation to order, and the speakers and microphones are always far inferior to what's actually being said and heard. And that is, you can move that now indoors to any environment: QSR, fast casual, retail, ticketing, hospitality, healthcare. The same sort of barrier to entry and adoption rate was the same problem that they had outdoors for years. People, to try to solve this, cobbled together solutions. Nobody really thought about the underlying problem, and that was having a really solid noise canceling, full duplex, beam forming, directional microphone array. Because anybody can go into a house and talk to Alexa or Google. Those are omnidirectional. The problem in customer-facing retail specifically, as well as QSR, is you don't want to hear all the other people left, right, behind you, on the other side. You want to be able to capture what the person in front of the device is saying. So it really dawned on me during COVID that, wow, why aren't people using voice instead of gestures and phone takeovers and all these things because nobody wanted to touch the screen. And then I started analyzing the market starting in like 21, 2, really started thinking about it. And then in 23, I started quizzing people at trade shows. Show me, you say you do voice AI, show me. People are like, well, it's a little noisy in here. It's not going to work great. Or, well, my connectivity, nobody was really able to show me. And then the people that were able to show something that had a semblance of working, they were like, can you get closer? I'm like, no, I don't want to get closer. I want to stand 18 to 24 inches away and talk to it. Yeah, well, I get the same story. So we'll fast forward now. After looking at the market for 18 months, I was at ISE in Barcelona in 25, and I encountered the same problem. So I said, okay, I think I know what's wrong, and I think I know how to fix it and make it very modular. So that's where the idea to come up with something that's simply attached directly to an edge connect of a touchscreen, or you could integrate easily to a kiosk and use a single USB wire, but have that beam-forming, full duplex, echo-canceling microphone array with really good, high-quality speech representative speakers that really have a tuned DSP for the human voice and the AI voice, all integrated into a tiny device. That's where the concept actually came out of. Again, being a kiosk guy, I was always frustrated that people couldn't show me a kiosk that worked. Mm-hmm. So to solve that is you combine you combine everything into a soundboard that actually is facing the customer. Everybody sees all-in-one touchscreens everywhere, but what's the problem? Single microphone, and the speakers are on the back side. That's not going to work, right? Mm-hmm. So by putting on something that's customer-facing and focused on the customer in front of the device and allowing the digital assistant to hear clearly and confidently what that person says, and them able to hear what the AI agent is saying, is what removed that barrier to entry. And I think 26 is the build-up year of pilots and regional deployments, but 27 is when you open the fire hydrant, and I think everybody's going to go to mass deployments because voice is going to work in that setting.
I agree, and I think what Nick would jump in on for it. It's what's been needed to really to enable it, right? To enable your product, you have to have the proper hardware capturing the audio.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Right, like wherever you want to take the journey of voice AI, like you want to take it back pre-Alexa, you can, right? But at the end of the day, there's like humans do it too. We have ears, we have a brain, and then we have a mouth, right? And it's like if you take away someone's ears, it doesn't matter how good their brain and mouth are, it's not going to work. And if you get into the actual like biomechanics of like what your ear does to an audio wave, and you have them coming in at a slightly time difference, like your ability to tell direction is incredible. And the hardware to mimic that, like we're not there to do it like globally, but to be able to do it in specialized situations, we can if we think about it, right? And I think that's what Ed's saying. It's like, there are times when you can like very intentionally create the right hardware to mimic that. And then you have the start, you have the very start of a successful voice agent, right? And then you're going to be compiling all these AI models. And maybe that's a good segue into, your question of like, when did I get into voice, right? And so, my quick background, like I'm a Midwest expat. I live in Boston. I went to MIT, spent 10 years proudly a Midwest expat, spent 10 years just in tech broadly, doing stuff at like massive data scales. And then in 2017, Google put out this paper called about the transformer called Attention is All You Need. And I was a little slow on the uptake. It took me a couple of years, but it started to become obvious that this was going to transform everything we knew about AI. This is the fundamental insight that led later on to ChatGPT and OpenAI and all the stuff we're seeing today, right? But like it became pretty clear that like I need to get into AI. And I already felt like I was behind. I was like, I should have been doing this 2 years ago. And so in 2020, I got the chance to join a startup based out of Boston that was doing both chat experiences, but mostly voice experiences for banks and credit unions, right? So we're going to be talking to their customers, talking to their members, delivering service, helping them get behind the pin and handle sensitive transactions, right? They're going to pay off loans. They're going to check checking, especially when you start talking about the credit union world, like there's like really tragic, things that are going to pull on your heart, right? People like go to the grocery store before they check out, they call their bank to ask, how much do I have in checking? And the idea that they're on hold for an hour is just like unacceptable, right? Like we cannot be allowing that to happen. And we were able to help with that. And so that was some of the meaningful stuff. Fast forward to now, it became very obvious as ChatGPT came out that LLMs had transformed the brains in the whole voice agent. And people and enterprises were going to need a platform to help them develop. Because if you can develop faster cycles, you're going to develop better products. And so that's how we started VoiceRun. So I love Ed because like I don't do the hardware, and the hardware destroys everything, right? Like we can do great on phones, we can do great on, on apps, and we can do pretty good in drive-through. Those are the places we're deployed today. No kiosks yet, but maybe Ed and I will chat later. But yeah, the hardware can make or break it.
Yeah, that's, and that's what I found. And that's the story I heard from everybody who was trying it. Hardware is simply an enablement tool to make voice AI run work anywhere. And it is literally that. You're right. It's a hardware peripheral. But without starting at what is being heard and what is being said and handing that off, it's just not going to work. So hardware is the start of it. But boy, the agentic side of it is everything.
Well, it's the hardware gets you the clean data, right?
Yeah.
And then Nick can work with it.
Yep.
We can do a lot with it.
Are you seeing a change in customer behavior with voice, with the execution of voice, both online and offline? And this is really a question to both of you.
Yeah, I made Ed go first last time. I'll take this. I mean, I think it depends on the behavior, right? Like I think the surface answer is like yes. I think the deeper answer is no, right? So the surface answer is like yes, people are becoming more willing to use voice agents than they have in the past because I think generally they're having better experiences. That is an improvement. In some ways, they're also sometimes less patient because they've been pumped by these like AI labs, these frontier labs. They're like, AI's doing everything. No one's going to have a job. It can do everything. And then like, wait, but it can't even spell my name. Like, what are you talking about?
Can't do math.
Yeah, it's pretty good at math now, though. You should try that.
Yeah.
So the surface level, I think, is yes. I think the deeper level, it's actually no. It's like people are calling, especially in retail. Maybe there's certain places where people are looking for guided experiences through purchasing, but a bulk of the retail experiences are like, hey, where's my order? It's like, where's my order? I haven't found it. I didn't get the email. Like, where is it? And at the end of the day, if your agent can deliver that, like you just made someone's day. They might not think you made their day, but like compared to the alternative of like they were on hold for 45 minutes, right? Like you've made their day. So I think at the end, like customers often, they have something they're trying to achieve. And they want to achieve it in a way that doesn't cause them social anxiety. That's for the younger people in the crowd. I say that I'm enjoying this room, by the way, because in my office, I'm full of like surrounded by 22-year-olds, and I'm like the only one that has children and is married. So people just want to, they don't want the social anxiety. They just want to be served. And that's what they're doing, And so I don't know. I think
trying to decide if that's an insult or not.
Yeah.
Or a compliment.
It's not an insult.
Unfortunately, I can relate to that. I often get asked by young developers, how does somebody your age know all this stuff? It's called reading in real life. It's my experiences that I have learned. That's how you learn. When you clock out at 5 o'clock, us older guys don't clock out. Saturdays and Sundays, we still work. So we have to maintain our knowledge and maintain our relevance to make sure that what we're passionate about still means something in the market. So it's not just about legacy knowledge. It's about knowing what's going on. And boy, knowing generative and agentic, which I happen to pick agentic over generative, is the way of the future. I see a lot of companies who are testing the agentic in a web presence first. People are developing an agent, giving it a persona, a brand, an identity, which goes along with it. You got Homer at Home Depot, and there's a bunch of others out there that they're turning these sort of brand things they've used in commercial advertising and print and TV media for years. Now they're going to turn them into agentic. So by introducing it, one, to the website first to let people search through typing or voice, is going to give them sort of an evolution directly over to introduce agentic directly into the store. And I think I'll use a pretty old reference. Just think about, for just the older people on this call, think about when the ATMs came out. Think about the adoption curve of an ATM. It took years. You're not going to see that kind of problem with trust. And it's going to happen much, much faster with agentic. So you're going to be able to do things like find product, find what aisle it in, do endless aisle, the kinds of things that used to be, I would say, delegated or relegated to a single device in multiple departments. You're going to have truly cross-platform ability from voice. So you'll be able to ask about anything in any department at any time in any store. And it doesn't matter what it is. You can put it in your cart.
To me, that's the key. It's all about the question. This is going to get a little maybe off course, but the ability for consumers to continue to learn how to ask the right questions to get what they want out of agentic.
I think it's twofold. I think agentic should also be able to guide you. So it should give you, I'll use breadcrumbs, right? Something
Right.
to give you the idea of how to take it where it wants to go. You should be able to ask it anything. And then the recommendation side of agentic should be able to figure out intent.
What kinds of things are customers most comfortable using voice for? Are there certain things that they don't want to use voice for? And does that change depending on the type of retail or the type of business, be it QSR or grocery or,
or privacy, where does privacy matter in terms of using voice versus
are there some things people
to the
will
consumer?
love to do voice with and some things they absolutely don't want to?
I think what's interesting is I think people are already not secure enough with their voice, right? Like how many places in the world, can you call and say, can I get my 2 pizzas? You know me, it's Nick. And they say, okay, cool. Can you read me your credit card? And you're going to read it out loud, not only where you are, but you're talking to some person you don't know. You don't know what they're doing. They're working at a pizza shop, right? You might have some ideas of how much money they're making. You might have an idea of how much that credit card, and it's a vast minority of people that would take that information for bad reasons. But we just trust them. Voice agents that.
We sure do, because we want that pizza.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think that the way around that is we see you're a loyalty member and we have your phone number. We're going to send you a link in which to do a secure link payment from your device. And we will know when that payment is processed, and they tell, yep, your payment has been processed. Thank you. Your order will be in 30 minutes. I don't think I wouldn't do it. And I don't think anybody would type in on a screen in any environment, a credit card number, or the days of giving that number over the phone is pretty much coming to an end. There are still some scenarios where that happens, but it's in a very trusted environment, secure, and it's usually on a private device. I don't ever see that happening in retail, and it's really for that. It's for the privacy, the comfort. Even if it's perceived privacy and security, perception is reality. So you have to do things that make them comfortable to keep that transaction very fast.
I would say generally places where I think voice succeeds versus places where maybe it's not the best medium is you kind of think about it as I think about bandwidth. It's relatively low bandwidth in the sense that if you look at an Amazon page, you can on one screen, you can see 100 products at a time and you can kind of scan through and figure out what you want. Versus if I'm reading them out to you, it's going to take 4 minutes, Right. And it's one of the reasons why I think LLM adoption on websites, these chatbots, hasn't really changed the world. And it's because it's not as helpful because you can just view hundreds of options at a time and you can navigate, you learn how these websites work. But over the phone, it takes a high degree of intelligence to help you navigate to where you are trying to go, where you don't know where it is, right? You might, if you take it into a store, take it into a Lowe's, if there's a robot you can talk to and you're I need a wrench. I don't know. It's one of those, it's no, you don't put anything in it. It's got an L shape. Good luck doing that on a website. But any voice agent built into a kiosk or robot could tell you Allen wrench. Is that what you mean?
Right.
You know, Allen Ridge? I can tell you where the, you know, so I think it's that question of like, what are you trying to discover? Is it better visually to look at it, or through speech? You need someone that's something that's very intelligent on the other side that can help you guide it. And that's back to what Ed was saying earlier. Like, no, these voice agents need to help guide you if you don't even know where you want to go, but you have some idea.
Yeah, and you hit on it earlier too, right? We're sensory creatures, right? We have the mouth, the ears, and the brain. Well, we also have eyes. The visual representation of that product or the interpretation of what that person is saying, even if not accurate, it's going to find the correct product much faster with listening and seeing and responding to it. So now once we combine all those things, all we need is smell-o-vision. And if you're in the QSR and you say you want a cheeseburger and you smell a cheeseburger, wow, that's amazing, right? So you include your sensories. So as visual sensory creatures, by combining the voice, the listening, the sight, and all of that into the experience, it really makes it more, it's more engaging for the consumer.
Well, that portion of guiding, that's the very human aspect of it. That is the, you know, DeAnn knows I talk all the time about hospitality and customer service and engagement and inquiry and discovery, and how that robot, when you go to the hardware store, I wanted to ask you, what are you working on today, Nick? You know, and facially recognize you and say, you're still working on the porch, or now are you working on the steps? And, you know, what do you need? That was the whole idea behind 2018's, you know, Burger Queenie QSR that was supposed to, you know, supersize and tell you what you ordered last week from the DFW airport. Do you want it again? But no such luck.
And that's where loyalty programs really help too. When you have that initial opt-in, I mean, that really builds a history and a pattern. And of course, you know, on the agentic side, it learns from that, and it can make those recommendations. It can, I mean, you're talking about speeding up a QSR transaction 40 or 50% by using voice, because I mean, especially if you walk up and said, oh, you know, hi, Nick, I see that you're on a diet and you want a chicken sandwich and a Diet Coke. And that's what you ordered last time. Yeah, that's all I want. You want anything else? Oh, what the heck? It's Friday. Give me a brownie too.
Right.
But it can really speed it up. If you think about the complexity of modifiers in the food industry and how long it takes to do modifiers, right? Whether it's burgers or it's like a sub at Publix that has 100 different options. When you know what you want and you go up and you can speak to it, it builds that sub and shows you the ingredients that are not on it and what's on it. You're talking about speeding up a transaction by over 50%. And you think about queuing at peak hour at a large grocery store that builds complex subs. That's an enormous amount of time. And then when you're done building that, you can simply just say, your sub will be ready in approximately 10 minutes. I see you're a loyalty member. We'll send you a text message when it's ready. So now you're allowing them to go shop and maybe make some spontaneous purchases. And now you're lifting the overall cart across the whole store. So it's really incredible how voice can streamline and speed up that process.
Hold the pickle.
Hold the pickle, yeah.
Well, we were playing a joke on him, but you know,
Yeah, Ed was still talking. I didn't want to be rude.
we were going to play hide and seek on you, Josh.
Yeah, welcome.
Sincerest apologies.
It's all right.
I got there at 1:15 because I was like, I'm going to be recording a podcast. The guy saw me at 2:55.
Well, you know, this is called retail OCD, not retail punctuality. So,
Nick and Ed and Barney, we were talking before the podcast started about consistency between online and offline and carrying that conversation between your app and your phone, or between your phone and online and to the kiosk. Is that even possible? Carrying it consistently with you and transferring that experience?
Sure. No, I make it sound like it's easy, but I think there's even degrees to that question, right? So I think, you know, the first one is wherever this is happening, right? Whether it's a kiosk, on the phone, on your app, in the drive-through window, right? It's going to be accessing some form of audio model to generate those waveforms that are, you know, projected and you listen to. And so if we use this common model, then we can make it a consistent voice. Now, I think where it gets interesting, and I think where like probably Ed, based on everything he said so far, so my first time meeting would say is like, now what gets really interesting is what about DeAnn? Like, can you get a consistent voice at all the different places you go? And Barney might get a different voice, and Josh, and like that becomes really interesting. And that is also possible if we have the ID. You got to identify, and that is challenging. Like in drive-throughs, you're going to use a license plate. Sometimes cars are shared, right? Like there's a lot of complexity to identifying that. Again, humans are so good at that. It's like really easy to take that for granted.
So to carry that forward, that's where the whole development of the agentic engine comes in. And if you're at home and you're searching for, let's say, furniture, and they have a bunch of couches, and you're like, okay, I like these 2 models of couches, I want to go see them. You should be able to tell the agentic agent on the website that you want to visit the store, and it should pop up a QR code, which you scan through a browser on your phone, and you should be able to carry that experience to the store. And you should be able to continue that experience in the store. And on the flip side, you should be able to take an experience from a store and then continue it at home where you can't make the decision, so you need to include your wife or husband. So you want them to share, or you can simply send it to them and say, hey, these are the things I was looking at. I'm in the store. Go ahead and continue and ask it any questions you have, and we'll be sharing this agentic experience so I can determine which one to buy while I'm here. So I think any good agentic agent should be able to carry that forward from web to phone to retail to a brick and mortar store, and in reverse. And someday you're going to be able to carry that right to the car, right? You're thinking about putting ASRs directly in the car and other devices. You'll be able to carry that in virtually every platform and every vehicle or transportation that you can have. So you can continue that seamlessly from brick and mortar to home and home to brick and mortar, and make that informed decision.
What was the personal device, Rabbit, that people were wearing on their, that was supposed to capture, and now there's other ones that capture every moment, and
Yeah. Well, now you got the glasses, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's coming out with glasses, and they keep trying to one up each other. So
I thought a fascinating use case for voice was Wendy's when they came out with their drive-through that had a cross promotion with Wednesdays, the TV show. And they did an AI voice on the drive-through that was Wednesday Addams' voice. And it was really good, very well done. They had an AI voice recreation of Wednesday Addams that would take your order at the drive-through. And I thought that was a really interesting example.
This is so undertapped. Like, I don't understand why everyone isn't doing this. Like, if you go to a Wahlburgers, like, I want Mark Wahlberg in his like fake departed accent ask me what I want.
You want
a burger?
Totally.
Give it to me.
The Dunkin' Donuts. They should be totally working the Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh my God, wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah.
You guys, I'm from Boston. I appreciate it. That's great. But they should. And I mean, especially when you start, like, I think now I'm going to go on a tirade, but it's like, especially when you see the like visceral fear and anger that you see from Hollywood often around AI and what it's generating and how it's changing the industry. Like, it's not destroying it, it's changing it. This is such a good opportunity. Oh my God, if you can give me Morgan Freeman's voice, I will buy whatever you are selling me.
It's the world of endorsements. And what's that platform where you can actually pay someone to send a video greeting to someone?
Cameo?
I mean, Cameo, right. It's that vibe, but it can be done on an entirely global, multi-language scale, that you can have Brad Pitt selling your chocolate bar in Nairobi in whatever the local language is.
I would buy a Brad Pitt.
That was a weird combination, but okay.
I don't know. DeAnn wants one right now. So
it's the power of Brad Pitt, right?
Yeah.
Multiply that with
hold
AI.
the chocolate. I'll just take the Brad Pitt.
Right.
Well, I'm just listening to you guys, and all I want to know is, here's the bigger question that I'm sitting on, right? So I'm coming at it from a consumer perspective. I'm using VoiceRun now as part of what we're doing with the relaunches of 4 retailers. And the reality is the bigger question, I'm watching these recordings, listening to how they're responding to them. A lot of people are sort of dumbfounded and just sort of don't do anything. They're like almost frozen and they hang up. And I'm not entirely certain if it's because they are just sort of like they've disconnected, or the system, quote unquote, is like nobody's talking at this point, so we're just going to leave, right? To avoid having 40 minutes of dead silence. But what I'm most curious about, the good news is I'm working with Nick on this and seeing how some of the stuff is developing. But Ed, even from your perspective, consumer ready for this? Number one, right? Is the consumer ready to have a conversation with something that's inanimate, right? We all say they are, right? There's lots of movies about this. I think iRobot's one, and there's a few others, right? But is the consumer ready to sort of embrace this? These auto assistants certainly are prevalent for the last 15 years, but people don't really have conversations with it. They sort of scream at it when they just get frustrated. That's what I do. I guess the request side of it, though, is, okay, how far can it go? Can you make friends with your voice agent, right? So one of the big things that Zappos really pioneered, they delivered happiness. That was a whole book that Tony came out with, right? And so what his biggest theme in how to really cultivate the customer experience was to develop that personal relationship. You could call into the call center, get to the person you want to have a conversation with, and become friends with that person. And there were plenty of clienteling instances where people literally were friends with the call center. And the way Zappos really kind of pivoted it or pushed this narrative is that you don't fire your friends. You don't return the product to your friends. You don't, scream at your friends. You're more likely to keep the product if you're friendly with them. And the reality is it worked really well. I believe the number that I last saw was 43% of all revenue came through the call center at Zappos. That's a lot.
Wow. Yeah.
So you look at these numbers and you're like, okay, consumer number one, all of a sudden this AI agent is actually talking to me, right? Does that scare the living crap out of me? And two, the other side is, can you become friends with it? Can you actually develop a relationship with this inanimate object, otherwise known as the AI agent, verbally, which you're more likely to do than in chat or any other format? And does that also lead to what retailers would love, which is more sales, more engagement, more, where I don't need to have a call center full of people?
Yeah, I think before you jumped on, we talked about how I think 26 this year is the year of pilots and regional testing, but mass adoption and scale, except for isolated cases that are being rolled out, is pretty much starting in 27, right? So I think this is the year of the pilots and the testing and seeing, because I'm working with clients that are getting ready to roll from web to ship, if you will, or other forms of where people congregate. And then the second part of that is, you're right, that whole personality, friendliness, inviting type thing. And this is what I asked Nick about how you build a persona and a personality, and what the agentic side is really doing from that level. And maybe it's the humor and the empathy and those kinds of things that the agentic side has to be really good at to make each user feel comfortable with that engagement. So I think that's twofold. Is one, this is the year of the pilot, and next year is the year of scale.
I think it's a lot broader than just retail. Even we have to be very careful in how we anthropomorphize these agents. We are seeing almost this is outside of even voice really, but especially through chat right now, you're seeing the beginnings of what we will definitely call a societal crisis of isolated young people who develop unhealthy relationships with numbers, right? Under these AI models are just a big grid of numbers, right? Yeah. So I do think there's that is a broader thing that is very concerning. I think when I think about it as it pertains to voice agents, which are low latency experiences, so the corollary to being low latency is it's not very smart, right? It might sound high fidelity audio quality, but it's not as intelligent as these more asynchronous experiences. But I think about it, I think something that retailers were going to have to consider is, what are you selling? right? And in my like little example I'll give, right, is like, I live in Boston. We get a bunch of snow. If I wasn't going to shovel my driveway, I've got two options. I can hire a company, and what I'm buying there is like, get my snow off my driveway. Or I can let the 14-year-old next door come on my door and shovel my driveway. And it's probably worse, but I feel really good. I feel great. I'm supporting this young entrepreneur. It makes me happy. I've got a human connection to this guy, and I'm so happy. Or this young girl. Like either way, they both come by. I pay them both. Like two different people come. And so what's being sold is very different. And it will be tempting to retailers as these voice like AIs have the ability to project humanness, to want to do that because you've seen it succeed in the past. And I do think there's this world where you can still be empathetic and like comfortable in the same way that a yoga studio has a setting that makes you feel a certain way, without being like, I'm trying to sell you this like human experience, because like it's not a human. I don't know. I think it's a very undetermined zone right now, but I think there's gonna be a real reckoning for a lot of retailers. I think there'll be a lot that are gonna try to like fake humanness and like they're fake selling that, and that's not what people are gonna buy. And the consumers are gonna learn. I don't know how long it will take, but they'll learn and they'll see through it.
What do retailers have to do to make it as normal an experience as possible for the consumer? Is there anything that they can do to make it feel as natural as possible?
I like to tell them it's an AI. Like, I think it's actually not weird. I think in modern day, AI is prolific enough that it's perfectly okay to just be like, hey, you've reached VoiceRun. I'm an AI designed to assist you. And like, some people are going to be like, damn it, an AI, right?
Yeah.
But like, a lot are going to be like, okay, I know what I'm dealing with here. I've talked to an AI before. Or if they haven't, they're like, this is a new experience. And when something different happens, they're like, oh, that's because this is a new experience. Not because like what the hell? I thought I was talking to Sharon, and who is this? Like, what's happening?
It's like getting a voice, going to a voice system first. It's that same experience. You're just going to an AI person instead of so it's not to like totally ramble, but imagine imagine you were going to staff your phone, your like call center phone, with 14-year-olds for a day. Someone's going to call in, and you're going to have way more success if their initial script is like, hey, I'm Shirley from so-and-so high school doing a work at the call center day. How can I help you? Your consumer is going to be like, oh, this is different. This isn't a normal human, call center worker. Let me adjust. Right. And I think the same way, it's like, doesn't mean that she can't help me. I'm going to be like alerted that like, this is different. Expectations are clearer, transparency, setting trust right up front, that, we're not trying to deceive you.
And what about in the store?
I was going to go there. So I agree with Nick, is why you hide it, right? Show it, like on my website, it says, hey, I'm Ed Crowley's digital assistant. I can answer anything about AI Connect you want. What would you like to know today, or that kind of thing. But when you go in, a lot of this has to do now with extension of brand. If you brand and you message correctly on the device and the UI is inviting and it tells you it's digital assistant, again, back to Bernie's point, your expectation is, oh, let's see how this thing's going to work. And when it does everything really well, that's a really good customer experience, right? When they walked up, the kiosk itself or the device, the in-aisle, end cap, whatever it is appealing. It's reflective of the brand. The personality of the agentic experience reflects the brand guidelines. But you let them know it's a digital assistant. You don't hide it. I think you just let them know.
Yeah, but important words, works really well.
Yes.
Because if you come across it, Nick, right, and somebody's testing it and it doesn't work, it's like, not going to go back and do that again.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great point. Hold on a second, because that has historically been the problem with kiosks. And I'm going back to the 90s now.
Yeah.
People will go up and they'll try to use it, and it's either slow or they can't find the button doesn't work or whatever it is. And that didn't end in the 90s. That carried through all the way to today, because people have an expectation that the device is going to speed up whatever they want. And when it doesn't work good, they're going to walk by that device next time and not even use it and look for a human. So it's a great point.
But let's go talk about that specific point. And I'm very curious to hear the counterpoint between the two of you, right? Which is take that online, right? People transpose the online experience to the offline experience and vice versa, right? You walk in, if you have a good online experience at Dick's, you're probably good to go into the store and go to Dick's, right? People like that option. They have a bad experience online. So mindset, bad shopping experience online usually translates to bad shopping experience in store, and vice versa. People view it both ways, right? That's not unusual. My question is, there's actually two questions. One, first and foremost, they have a bad experience with a voice agent. How much does that impact them going shopping there? It doesn't matter whether it's in store or offline, right? That's number one. Number two, as important to that, what happens if the AI agent's too fast for them? One of the things I actually prompted people to do is to, like on like chatbots, when you're talking through chat, don't respond immediately. Slow it down, like literally say, give it a 7-second pause. And people are like, well, like most of the call center applications out there are like, no, you're supposed to respond almost immediately. And I was like, no, you have to give people a chance to digest it.
You have to allow humans the time to process.
You have to have a chance just to review it and think about it for that 1 or 2 seconds.
Yeah, I was going to say not 10 seconds, but 1 or 2 is perfect.
1 or 2 is enough.
You're right.
These two questions are the big overall arching question, right? Which is, can we digest it, right, and have that? And as part of that, both sides, in-store, off, and online, bad experience, good experience, both sides of it, do you just now use that as a way to say, I'm no longer going to Dick's Sporting Goods? I'm not saying that you shouldn't go there. You should go to Model Sporting Goods.
Yeah.
Sorry, shameless promotion.
So you're right, too. I mean, the human voice speaks at a cadence, and that's a known cadence. A lot of research around that. And an agent should speak at a similar cadence. Shouldn't be too fast, too slow. Of course, when we think about everything else, too, language, dialect, and all those things, any good agentic experience should dynamically switch between languages, right? If you walk up to a device and you press a button to order something and, hola, right? It should automatically change the copy on the screen and start speaking in Spanish. So any good agentic agent should be able to switch between 90 plus languages automatically. And the cadence in each language should be appropriate, because we know some languages speak much faster than others. The other part of that is the bad experience, whether it's brick and mortar or online. A lot of people, if they have a bad experience on a website and they want to go to the store to see something, they're going to go and this is problem with most retailers historically, and the kiosk guys who deployed, they let a retailer stick the same website on a kiosk. No, that's not the way to do things ever. In the old days, I would recommend highly that people would allow screen layovers and just pick what are the things you're trying to promote and do. The kiosk doesn't have to do everything the website does. Pick what's important, what you want to sell, what's special, what it is, and overlay that and just scrape the stuff in and out of the website. So the kiosk today is not an extension of the website anymore. It is an extension of the brand, but it is uniquely and purposely and intentionally branded to do things in store, as opposed to everything you can look up. But where that changes is when agentic comes in, because now you could ask an in-store device virtually anything from a catalog, endless aisle, or what's in the store, and it should be able to switch between any department, anytime, all specifics on demand. So the evolution of that part has changed dramatically. I think the in-store experiences, the good ones, are going to far outweigh the bad ones as agentic comes into this. And agentic isn't the end all. I still think there's that adoption period where you have to stick to a hybrid touch and voice experience, because you must give them the option. Give them options of how they want to. Let them pick the customer journey, and then you just make whatever journey they pick much better and seamless and quicker than what they could do if they were doing touch alone or voice. And you have to combine the touch and the voice and the hearing to really make it a really good customer experience. I think that's kind of where we're heading. First adoption rate is going to be hybrid, and then you're going to start seeing end caps with passive screens, not interactive, and it's going to tell you on the screen, hey, this is, it's going to say right up there, here's our paint selections. These are on special this week. Tell me which paint you'd like to know more about. And you just have a conversation with a passive LCD. You're going to start seeing that, and mark my words, you're going to see it before the end of this year, that you're going to start seeing retail fixtures without touchscreens having agentic experiences.
I would think about it, Josh, to answer, the answer your question. I think it's like, the experience is the experience, right? Whether it's online, through a voice agent, through like what you heard from a friend, or whether you were in store, right? Like people's brand perception gets molded by all of that. And I think the challenge is that voice agents present some unique opportunities, and it's hard as an operator to identify, like, is it better to not answer the phone? Is it better to answer the phone with an experience that's like good, but not great? Or it's good often, but not always, right? Like these are really challenging decisions to make. I think people should be voice agents need to be held account the same way we'd hold account a human agent. Like they need to be doing a good job. And in order to make them do a good job, and this is where like it is incumbent upon technologists to make this technology accessible. Historically, there's two approaches to building a voice agent. You can do it in a no-code way, which is like you can kind of draw some diagrams, and it's very limited in what it can do, but it's accessible to anybody. Or you can do it in code, which historically has meant only like engineers and developers can build it, but now you can build really great enterprise-grade voice agents. And we're just now at the point with like everything you read about OpenAI and Anthropic and Claude Code that like it is incumbent upon technologists like me to be able to bring those tools to everyone to be able to build these things. Because like what you just said, I think the specific example that's so interesting is like, hey, I think sometimes my voice agents should speak slower. I don't know your customers, like, and I will never know your customers the way you do. Speak slower. Does that mean that they should pause before they speak? Or does it mean the cadence should be slower, or both, right? Like the models today can do exactly what you're saying, right? We can take the speed from 1 to 0.9 or 0.85. We need to make sure that the people who have the wisdom and knowledge, and they have a career that they've earned it over, are able to build the voice agents in the setting that it like allows them to accomplish the tasks, right? And that is like, we are in this moment. And if we can deliver that, combined with some hardware improvements we talked about at the beginning that, Ed is working with, we're going to be in a pervasive voice agent world. Right. But unless we do it, like we're always going to be like, I wish it was a human.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because even somebody who can, as a human, who can mirror very well is not necessarily the best customer service experience. And so being able to react to individually who your consumer is, your customer is, either through the data intermediation of somebody who's got deep domain experience with that customer base, but then giving it the ability to then understand itself, right? And then continue to learn.
But I will say there's so much potential. Like I spend lots of time listening to recordings, because I want to know these things are doing a good job. And the favorite sound I've ever heard of, like, not to get into a weird place, but this is a very normal place, calm down podcast, is we're deployed in restaurants in Singapore and multilingual place. But like a lot of people are only like, there's a lot of languages collectively in Singapore, but a lot of individuals only speak one, right? So like you imagine you're calling a restaurant, like you don't know what like the person who picks up the phone is going to speak. And so our voice agent answers, and it's just like, hi, I'm so-so AI assistant for this restaurant. You can speak to me in English or Chinese. And it's like the number of times I hear, ni hao, like, these science of like speaking to me in my native tongue, you're going to take care of me here. We need to bring that across retail. We need to everywhere. Like that's the reason people will come back.
Got to bring it back to humans.
Right. Well, ultimately, I think the reality is, I think we're all trying to, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. You could be in environmental services, right? You could be, selling, cat food, right? You can do any number of things. At the end of the day, I think, there are certain times where humans are helpful, and there are certain times that humans aren't. Let's be blunt. I literally was at the doctor, right? I don't want to start sharing personal stuff here. But the reality, I was at the doctor, and was trying to make an appointment with a doctor. It took me 6 months to make an appointment with a doctor, and the doctor was like, "It should have taken you in a week." He goes, "We even hired somebody just to make sure this doesn't happen, and you clearly fell through the cracks." And I was like, "Thanks for that happening to me." Where if we were dealing with VoiceRun or dealing with what we were, like even in store, I don't think that would have happened, right? I might have like wanted to throttle the thing, but I don't think that would have happened. And so that's my take on all of this, is that I don't think we necessarily need, in some cases, humans aren't necessary. Making a doctor's appointment, I don't want to talk to a human, to be honest. I just want to make the doctor's appointment. But I guess that's ultimately my question is, are we becoming much clearer on our use cases? Is the line getting gray?
Yeah, agentic AI doesn't have a bad day. It doesn't cop an attitude. It wants to be there to serve you on whatever you want. So the bottom line, people will get comfortable with the agentic part of this world. And the adoption rate will be much faster than other hardware, software, customer-facing things historically have been. I mean, AI itself, doesn't matter generative or agentic, is moving at the speed of light. And the adoption rate of voice AI will do the same.
I think it's just kind of like what I was saying, Josh, with the snow shoveling, right? Like just knowing what you're selling. Are you selling really low cost things that's like really valuable to people? Are you selling high cost? Are you selling something that's very human? Like it's a bad example because there's like all kinds of bad drama with it. But like I grew up during the Abercrombie era, right? And it was like going to that store was like a human experience. Like part of what they were selling was a human experience. And like, no, I don't think AI is going to do that for you. That's a human experience. Whether you like think it's a good thing or bad thing, that's your own view. But there are other examples, right? Like you buy lemonade on, from like the kid down the street. It's like, that's a human thing. That's not about the lemonade. And so like knowing what you're selling, and if you're not selling a human experience, buckle up. AI is going to be able to do it, right? Whether that's voice or otherwise.
I have one big question, right?
The answer is 3.
One big question, one big answer.
Right? One big question, and say this in like 5 words or less. Even something simpler. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Voice AI agents are here to stay.
2 thumbs up. There they are in the window. Yeah, totally agree. They're not just here to stay. They're going to be here forever. The evolution is going to continue and only get faster. And as I said, all throughout this program, adoption in 2016, late 2026, leading up to 2027 is going to accelerate.
Yeah. Huge. My galaxy brain parting thought is like, it's awesome as a human. If you get a voice agent that can solve your problems, that's amazing. What's going to happen when you have your personal voice agent and you're like, hey, can you go call this place? And we got the agents talking to each other. That's your future to think about.
Oh yeah.
Phones.
I'll have my agent call your agent. We'll do that.
So when you call AT&T and said you'll be your wait time is 4 hours, you can just have your agent wait for you.
Right. We do that.
Yeah. And have them yell at AT&T while you're at it.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was a really pleasure to meet everyone and talk to us.
This has been amazing.
It was a good time.
Always a
pleasure. Have a great weekend, everybody.